My favorite part of that product was actually sneaking into the largest bike show in the world with our prototypes. And there's no way to get in, right, if you're not in the industry, but we managed to talk our way in. I will say Wendy J can talk her way into just about anything.
Hey, aloha, and welcome back to the Embers Rising podcast, where we spark meaningful conversations on innovation, culture, and beyond. I'm your host, Wendy J, and I'm joined by my fantastic husband, business partner, and co-host, David Tucker.
All right. You stole the words right out of my mouth, right? Instead of just introducing me as co-host. But today we're going to have an incredible episode, jam-packed. So let's move on.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be talking about power couples of today's world, giving you the behind the scenes of how we record and create content. We're going to be diving into the growth strategies beyond just making content, and also wrapping up on how to balance love and work.
So we were really excited in creating this episode. I can't wait to dive in, Wendy.
Yeah. So whether you're navigating the digital space hand in hand with your partner, or you're just fascinated by the world of couple-led digital ventures, today's episode promises a treasure trove of insights, anecdotes, and inspiration. Ready to dive in? Let's ignite the conversation. All right, we are back, and I'm super fired up to talk about diving into this, David. I know that how much we learn from our power couples, so this is something I'm excited to share. So the rise of couples amplifying their YouTube channels, podcasts, social media presence, coaching endeavors, marketing services, and AI ventures is really shaping the landscape of the entrepreneurship out there. And I thought that you could drop us some, points here of what's really happening in that space.
Yeah, but before we talk about that, Wendy, I want to talk about something a little more personal, and that is makeup, right? And do all of these power couples, do all the guys have to wear makeup? Because as we're getting on this episode today, you're like, your face is all blotchy and you need to go put on some makeup. And I'm like, oh, come on. So let's talk makeup for a minute. Do you think this is something that I have to do? And if you're going to be online making content, guys should be wearing makeup or not?
This has thrown me off. And no, I don't think that you need to have makeup. I think you just need to be yourself. It just depends on what your content is and who you are targeting for your audience, and really who you're speaking with. So yeah.
Well, my face was all blotchy, so I chose makeup. So
okay, that's good.
If you like the way the makeup looks, go ahead and put a thumbs up. But let's talk about small business for a little bit and sort of the metrics of what's going on, because we realize that we're not in this alone when it comes to being, a power couple in business together. There's about 33 million small businesses in the United States, and about 5 million of them are actually couple owned. But the interesting thing is that portion of business has been growing exponentially since COVID, right? Like 1 out of 4 businesses that's being created today is actually a combination of a couple working together. And it's just interesting. I was looking into the sort of monetary aspect of this, Wendy. And what do you think? Who makes more money? A couple that both has a job, or a couple that is an entrepreneurial couple like us?
Oh man, entrepreneurial, I would think.
Ding, 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 you would be right. So the average median income for a couple that are both W-2 wage earners is around $75,000 is the metrics I saw online. Compared to people like us that are entrepreneurial that have a small business together, it's almost double that, right? It's around $140,000. But here's the interesting thing, right? There's so much focus on money today, and I get it because, let's face it, it's expensive to live. But if you're a W-2 earner, there is 0.1% of people that actually make $1 million a year, compared to small businesses where it's pushing almost 10%. I think the number was like 9.2%. And so I think that's pretty meaningful. The flip side of that is there's a lot of businesses that are started and fail, right? So the failure rate is high also. So that's it. And I guess our definition, or my definition of a couple's owned business, is a business where a romantic couple is actually owning and running the business together. So that's really the long and the short of it in terms of metrics as to why you might want to think about getting into business with your love interest.
Now, you mentioned failure. I want to talk about that because so many couples have tried going into business and they did fail. Is that the metric that you pulled in that failure
So
realm?
it was really around the failure rate of small businesses in general, right? The number is really, really high. It can be as high as like 9 out of 10 small businesses fail within the first 5 years. It's different these days, though, in terms of what you might consider to be a business, right? And there are a lot of couples that get into a rhythm of working together. And are they building a business or are they just making money together, right? And for me, a business, you really hit that threshold when you build something that you could step away from and sell, right? To me, that's a business. Think of it like a brick and mortar, like a pizza business, right? You can build a business and step away from it. Whereas a lot of people that come together, they have some digital marketing experience or they have some communication, relationship, whatever it is, coaching experience. And so they're really just making money, right? If they stop doing it, it's not something they could sell. And that's not just necessarily a bad thing, I think. It's just that doesn't really fall into those metrics of business failures.
Yeah, it's hard to stay motivated, when you've come through a space that didn't work. And so you're almost afraid to go back and try again. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking, hey, been there, done that, and it actually didn't work, and I'm trying to find my new gig, totally get that because it can be very scary and disappointing. And at the same time, you got to give yourself some courage to say, try again, because things are always going to pivot and change and the industry is always going to pivot and change. So you have to go maybe with what didn't work and try something else and don't give up. So I just have to put that out there before we kind of share some of the power couples that we know that are doing a fantastic job of revolutionizing their business out there and sharing with the world. Did you want to add to any of that?
No, Dave? Nowhere in this episode had we planned to talk about failure, but now we're here, right? We're talking about it. And Wendy, what is your favorite failure in our business together in the last 13 years? And we are celebrating 13 years of working together. So what's your favorite failure so far?
Oh my gosh. I think our favorite failures are just the ones we continue learning from, the ones that I love talking about, and you'll see out there on my other video channels like YouTube and Instagram talking about red flags. I think if we're going to talk about failures, paying attention to your red flags and how important it is to how to know what a red flag is. And I deep dive into that in some of my other episodes. I think episode 2 of this podcast talks about red flags, but really important to know the red flags because that'll help you not go down those trains that may take a lot of time and energy from you that you could have avoided that to save yourself time, energy, and a headache, So
I know the ones you're talking about, but in those experiences, we learned so much, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah, it may have been disappointing, the outcome, but the experience was incredible and the things I learned along the way. I'm going to say my favorite, not failure, but thing that never really came to fruition. We created an apparel company for the sports industry, right? Which is the logical thing to do when you've no experience in the apparel industry. You have no idea how to design clothes. You just see something that is missing in the marketplace. And we got it all the way to prototype. We just realized that the next step was going to take a couple $1,000,000. And so it was either go out and get investors or try and do it like the organic way. We learned so much in that process, working with Chinese manufacturers and all those things. So the product never came to fruition, but I wouldn't change that for anything in the world. And hey, the product did come to fruition for a major sports apparel manufacturing company out there that's
Yeah, well, I have to say, I have not actually seen that particular product out there, which was called Bravi. And what it was, it had a particular fabric that would protect you from road rash. And I would not change it because I had continued wearing that. And a year after my first crash on a road bike, I crashed again. and I was actually wearing the prototype, and I didn't get road rash. So I'm like, oh my gosh, these things actually work. I actually tested it. It was a terrible second crash, but I remember, yes, I wouldn't change that because then I would have another layer of road rash.
And so I guess that leads to the question. It sounds like I married my crash test dummy.
Right.
Anyway, to close that up, my favorite part of that product was actually sneaking into the largest bike show in the world with our prototypes. And there's no way to get in, right, if you're not in the industry, but we managed to talk our way in. I will say Wendy J can talk her way into just about anything. And they rejected us until they gave us VIP passes and we got to walk the floor and shop that product with a couple of manufacturers who were like, this is interesting. So
yeah, I think my name on that trade show floor was like Bob and yours was Dan or something.
Oh yeah, I had a Chinese name. I think my name was Chin, right?
Yeah,
like,
we had different names on our badges. Anyway,
you don't look like Chin, and like I am.
It was pretty funny. But
so
anyway.
let's talk about some power couples who are doing the thing today that are high visibility and people that we vibe with, right? Like we've actually been in the same room with, we've worked with
we've
them,
coached with,
them.
We've taken their courses. Yeah. So let's just call these folks out because these are incredible power couples to follow and watch.
I get to say the first one because I love Alex and Leila Hormozi. Alex is sort of my North Star when it comes to, sales, marketing, and closing deals.
Yeah, for sure. And I just want to say, use these power couples as an example to fire you up. That's not like we're saying, hey, go into business as these business models, but more as your research stage if you are, or if you just need a boost of, electrons for your body to like be fired up. We're just going to shout out some names of people that we've worked with or done their courses or have coached with privately or been in their masterminds. These are incredible couples. So yeah, kicking it off, Alex and Leila Hormozi, incredible power couple, co-founders of Gym Launch. They really revolutionized the fitness business industry with their marketing and operational strategies with their company acquisition.com.
And I secretly have this desire to create one of our businesses that Alex would look at and consider partnering with to take it to that next level. But we've got to get one of them that works without us to about that 5 million to 10 million range per year. So that's on my list over here.
If you're a listener and that vibrates with you, go check out Alex and Leila. But they're a power couple that the way they work together is, like all of us, is a little bit different, but they have their own strengths. And it's really quite interesting how they kind of weave that together and work together in their story. So go check them out if you're new to Alex and Leila. Definitely some folks to look into.
And we met Alex and Leila at an event. We were sitting in the front row, and I am embarrassed to say I had never heard of him before, but it's when he was coming up. And it was, do you want to share who was running that event?
Oh gosh, this ties into a next power couple. Sonja Cannell and Heather Torres were out there running the Growth Video Live.
Yeah, with Gary Vee. It was an incredible event in Las Vegas. And, we've spent time with Sean and his wife, Sonja. And Sonja spends sort of a lot of the time behind the scenes. They've got a family, a couple beautiful kids. But she is a powerhouse when it comes to getting stuff done. So Sean is obviously the person that's always in front of the camera and a lot of the strategy. But I don't think they would be where they're at today without Sonja.
For sure. Sean's known for his YouTube channel, Think Media, and video influencers. He collaborates, with his wife, Sonja, to provide the insights on leveraging how to create video content on YouTube for brands and businesses, really becoming a thought leader out there in that space, not just on YouTube, but as a thought leader you can believe and trust in. And we've worked with them privately and created a great friendship, and they are just wonderful people. So yeah, shout out to Sean and Sonja.
He teaches how to be successful on YouTube. So look up Think Media on YouTube to consume some of his great content. Who do we have next?
Oh my gosh. Tom and Lisa Bilyeu, my two faves, co-founders of Quest Nutrition originally and Impact Theory. They've really made waves in both the health industry and digital content space. Lisa's also known for her podcast, Women of Impact. just both incredible people. And they too are power couples that do their life differently. And I love learning from Tom and the way he goes about it. And you kind of vibrate a lot with Tom, and I really vibrate with Lisa. I've been in her masterminds. It's incredible to see how those two work through their relationships and work together at the same time. And also how far they've come, because it didn't start off very easy for them. If you know their story or don't know their story, they really started off in a rough space to grow into who they are today. So it's constantly an evolution.
Yeah, sound familiar. I think we all started in some rough space, but it's interesting because Lisa really started behind the scenes and then decided, they collectively decided she was someone that should be in front of the camera teaching, right? And teaching how to have more confidence. And I think that's an awesome piece, something that's really missing in a lot of people out there today. So,
I was just going to say, do you want to dive into our next two power couples?
Yeah, I'm just going to say, because this one's interesting. You never know who you're talking to, and we're in at Bent. It's a Brendan Burchard event. I think it was Influencer. And I'm talking to the girl in front of us, and, we're exchanging back and forth, just talking a little bit about what we're getting out of the event. And then Brendan comes on, he introduces this guest, and he says, she just separated and sold It Cosmetics to L'Oreal. And, the number was north of $1 billion, like 1.2, 1.3, something like that. And she's really not a public speaker. She's never been on my stage before. And then he introduces the girl that I was just talking to, right? And that was Jamie Kern, Lima. But her and her husband, Paolo, if you don't know the story, created It Cosmetics over the kitchen table, where most of us, sit down and in some way, shape, or form mastermind, formulate what we're going to do together. And that's why couples are so powerful, right? Because business doesn't end, between the hours of 9 to 5. You're always working on ideas together. Like, we came up with some great ideas today, working out in our home gym at 6:00 this morning.
Amazing power couple. If you don't, check them out. Follow Jamie. She's always inspiring what she's doing and making waves in the industry with her new book and just her new life after she sold over to L'Oreal. So just incredible. And I'm sure they continue working through the evolution of their own entrepreneurship together as a couple. So,
and it's a good example of Jamie is more the front person and Paolo's really behind the scenes, right? So the exact opposite of maybe Alex and Leila.
Yeah, and I want to mention our next power couple is Chalene and Bret Johnson. We had met Chalene at Marketing Impact Academy, I think. And I remember her originally introducing Bret, her husband, and he had not yet really come on the scenes in a social way. If you don't know who Chalene and Bret Johnson are, Chalene's a fitness expert and motivational speaker, really collaborates with Bret on a lot of projects, but she has the show called the Chalene Show podcast. And then also she's huge in the marketing space for the Marketing Impact Academy. She is definitely, she's been on Brendan's stage. We have kind of been with her for her journey for quite a while. And it's been really cool to see her collaboration with Bret as her whole timeline it just continues to unfold. Her journey unfolds in this adventure together with Bret and her husband and the stories that they share. It's really cool as she continues to share more and more authentic stories of how those guys are creating business and creating life together.
Yeah, so that's for sure. And Bret was primarily in the background for a long time. Now he has a course on financial fitness and does more and more online. And she sort of drags him into the social media space. But one thing like with all of these power couples, and it's true for Wendy and myself, and that is opposites seem to attract sometimes, right? And that's a good thing because you both have skill sets in different areas. And the more you work together, the more you sort of find this incredible middle ground with your skill sets. Like Wendy has me wearing makeup and has drugged me on camera, right? Not the thing that I'm the most comfortable doing, but it's what needs to be done. And that's really like the allure of combining love, creativity, and business together. Any thoughts on that, Wendy?
I do, because I think if you are new to going into a successful business with your partner, really need to ask yourself why and be ready to tackle the challenges together. And this is what Dave and I get into on the nitty gritty is tackling the nuances means building the skill set to get through it, because it'll definitely kill the relationship and the business or one or the other if you don't have the skill set and the toolkit to get beyond the challenges that are going to creep up, because they're already going to be there. It's just like, it may be amazing, and then there's challenges right when you get started, or 2 years or 3 years or even 10 years you're into business and you're like, oh, we're at like a sticking point with our relationship or the project or the business. So I think it's important to always ask yourself, why are we doing this? What are we getting out of it? And are we moving in the right direction?
Absolutely. And it goes back to failure, doesn't it? Right? We almost, jokingly fail our way forward because we learn so much in that skill building. Every time we do something, we go through the process and we get just a little bit better. And that sort of ties into, if you don't know what to do, begin with some research, right? And a lot of times that's where our inspiration comes from. So if you put on your research cap, how does this apply to me as you're scrolling through your feed, and don't think of it as just entertainment. You think of it as sort of a research project, and you start to catch what people are doing, how they work together, why their content works, and all of those sorts of things. You become inspired, and it creates, that atmosphere where you're not just the audience, but you're actually a business creator in research mode.
And I was going to say, I have a little different take on that. If you are thinking about going to business together and you know what the business is, let's say a cookie shop, go out and do the research, connect with those people. Or let's say, hey, I want to open a wine boutique tasting room. Start at the very beginning. Go learn about those. Go take some classes about it. Actually get in the space of being around it so that you can get the support you need to build that thing together. So it's important to do the research. And Dave's talking about an online research if you're into the content creation side. I'm talking about like even a local business or a hobby that you two want to get in business with or something. Make sure you go out and do the research and really look at what's working and maybe what's not, or try something totally different. But it's important at least to get started and not stay at like, oh, I wish I was going to do that. Or, oh my gosh, I've turned 35. I've got to hustle. I'm not loving what I'm doing. Or I'm now 45 and I've got to do something. I mean, I want to encourage you to please go all out and cut through the noise of the fear and doubt and jump into what is driving your intuition, because that's so important, to go out and do the research. So I love that. And I love following incredible couples that are making incredible waves out there. I've got to mention a couple that I'm following right now, Bree and Flo. You can go to their website. It's called breatheandflow.com, or their YouTube channel. They are a yoga power couple. And I love watching the way that they do their business together. They work together, how they create their content, what they have to offer. It's really cool. It's just someone, a new couple that I'm following, but check them out. It's inspiring, especially if you're into yoga. But yeah, we talked about if you don't know what to do. If you know what to do, it's time to craft the foundation together, David. And you know how important that is.
Yeah, for sure. And if you don't know what the foundation is, just start heading together in a direction and start doing it. And the pieces will fall into place as to how you work together. And you really need to craft your own foundation, right? So what we share in this podcast and with what we teach is the way our framework works for us. And if you can take anything away from that and apply it to what you're doing to create your foundation, like we would be successful, because that's our goal here. But ultimately, you have to communicate and create a system, a foundation that works for you and your love interest, your partner.
So I want to move on, Dave, because I want to change up this next segment and talk about crafting content together, and give you all behind the scenes of how Dave and I are working through our content together from home, being content creators ourselves. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, like camera collaboration, or should I call this segment "Get Out of My Office"? I'm working.
We were just on a call with a friend of ours and talking about this actual episode. And I'm just going to dive into how we do it, because it's really important to find a way to create content in the home base with the other partner there and be able to freely do it, or you guys are working on it together. And one of the ways that Dave and I work is either one of us are going to, shoot a video, or we'll just start there. It's almost, it's like, hey, babe, I'm shooting a video, shutting the door. Are you good with that? Is that true?
Yeah, you've got to, you've got to communicate that. So we have the rule now, right? And it's unspoken. And that is, if the door is shut, you don't just come walking in, right? And that's our way of letting each other know I'm either in a meeting, I'm, closing a deal, I'm creating content, I'm doing something where interruption is not an option right now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. I like that. When we're creating content together, we are scheduling time to talk about the content we're going to create. And then we're blocking even more time in the pre-production stage to prepare the content. We probably spend way more time preparing the content than we actually do shooting the content. So there's a lot of prep. We sit down together. Here's what we're going to do. Then we block another day time to shoot that content. We shoot it together. And then that goes into our post-production team, and now we're in review and starting to make the cuts. But that's really like the big piece of it. Did I miss something in there?
No, I just think it's interesting for people that are moving into this. We're doing a lot of the work ourselves. We do have a team that does video editing. But the way to think about that is we probably spend 20% of our time in pre-production, 10% of our time in production. And then Wendy, 70% of the time is post-production, right? Because we cut this into multiple clips. And so just think about it. This takes us an hour to shoot. We probably worked on it for 2 hours. Yeah, we worked on it for 2 hours, and there'll probably be 7 hours of post going into this. That's sort of where the numbers are at right now. If someone has a different set of metrics, I'd love to hear what you're doing.
This is how we have been doing our content block. So, I mean, obviously the podcast is a little bit different because our episodes are pre-scheduled with guests or are already on our calendar. But when it comes down to value creation content, we're really doing a lot of pre-production and kind of envisioning early and creating all of the script notes or creativity pieces, like message boards, before we actually get to the shoot. And then it goes into that post-production time block. And yeah, I'm doing a lot of the work myself at this time. So it's a lot slower, but yeah, excited to scale that. Anything else you want to add?
No, I don't think so. I don't want to scare people away with the amount of time it actually takes, because we'd like to think that, working together in your own thing, in your own jam, is going to give you this incredible amount of free time where the money just comes pouring in. You're only working a couple days a week. And that may be true for some people. It's not true for us. And most of the couples that we mentioned right at the beginning of this podcast, we know that they put in more than 40 hours a week. And that's really the way you need to think about it.
For sure. And I do want to say, if you are a couple that is creating at home, find the sweet spot timing for you both. If it's like from 10 to 12 or 9 to noon or 1 to 5, get that block down where you're both energized to both work on it together, or you're doing your separate roles. That's the most important, that you're like on a schedule. When Dave and I, we actually have block time that says, hey, we're actually creating vision together. we block a time that says we're creating vision together. So sitting down, talking about the vision that we each have, collaborating on that so we can actually start implementing the action behind that.
And that pre-production time, we have that scheduled together on our calendars for the next month. We have shooting the podcast on our calendars. We have, that creative time where we ideate what we want to do for social media, those sorts of things. That's on our calendar to sit down together so we can work off of each other. And so that when that time comes, I don't have a meeting, or Wendy doesn't have an out of the office, or out of the house sort of thing. Because that can be frustrating for a couple, like where you're like, we're going to work on this time, this business together. And then someone's off doing something else, not keeping their word, basically is what it comes down to.
I also want to share something that I think a lot of our couples in or content creators don't share is really a couple of hacks. First of all, it's super distracting if you are in a meeting with your partner and this is right next to you and it's faced up and you're watching notifications. Not a good plan. Keep this out of your conversation. Secondly, get on a laptop, a desktop, a computer somewhere where you guys are making notes together so you both see it, whether you're using Google Docs, you're using a program like Monday.com and using their Monday Doc. Both of you need to see the vision of what you're creating in a space that's not hammered with notifications because that's super distracting. And then three, cut out the notifications on your computer, whatever that device is, because that's even more distracting to be in a meeting and you're dinging away with notifications and you're actually in a focus block with your partner and all these notifications will come through. These are things that Dave and I have learned over the years where we didn't have. And it's super helpful to know that we do have this streamlined flow now. Wouldn't you agree, Dave?
Yeah, absolutely. I sort of like to think about it this way. Notifications are something you create as a business owner for other people to receive, right? It's your way of hacking their attention and growing your business versus the other way around is really what's going on in the world. And so if you don't control the distraction, especially me with ADD, like I turn everything off. Nothing gets my attention except Wendy J, when it comes to us working together. So I don't have emails dinging, notifications, no TV or screens on. And if I didn't do that, I would be all over the place, which I'm all over the place most of the time anyway.
So important to set yourself up for success when you're in a block time with your partner. So it helps the overall communication. I do want to jump in and talk about if you are a content creator, and I want to share some trend spotting here, what's hot in the content creation space and how couples are capitalizing on it. Dave, do you want to jump in and share a couple of things?
Sure. I mean, if there's something that's hot and you have skills and knowledge around it, creating a digital course or workshop is one of the most obvious ways to launch something in terms of a way to make money and create a business around that. So that would be sort of the first thing that comes to most of our minds, and it's still very successful today.
I'll also mention anything with AI. So AI ventures that you two might want to take on, that's really popular right now.
For sure. And mobile apps and software, those sorts of things. Again, all of this takes a little bit of skill or a lot of skill, time, and money. So that's why I led with like a workshop or digital course, or sometimes we call it coaching, right? Because it takes almost no investment in terms of money. AI might take a little bit more, although it's super affordable with the way things are going today. And then mobile apps and software, certainly there's investment in time, money, and it takes a while to penetrate that market.
And then another one is creating online communities. It's a little trickier depending on the audience that you may or may not have, but creating membership sites inside like circle.co, Fireside, Patreon, Discord, any of those are popular community sites. So I just wanted to share some ways if you're thinking about like, hey, I'm already a content creator, I'm looking for ways to like scale. What are like the next best things that I can be working on? Those are some concepts to give you some ideas.
And I'll just say with all of that, having worked in the digital marketing industry, owning 2 agencies for as long as I did, the people that failed were the build it and they come people, right? They had that mindset of, I just need to build the thing and then they're going to come. That may have worked back in the 80s and the 90s, but today it's audience first. So we have even made this mistake ourselves, right, of building something without having the appropriate amount of audience to see it first. And before you do anything, before you build anything, I would start talking about it in social media and see what kind of feedback you get and let the audience guide your direction in these things, because they'll end up getting what they want. And that's the way business is. It's all about what they want, not what you want, right? You want to serve your audience. So if you come at it from that perspective, you're going to be much more successful building any of these things.
I was chatting with a friend of mine, Neil Schaefer, who is an expert out there in marketing strategies, wrote the book Influencer. He and I were talking about content creators just creating way too much content and not focusing on the audience or the products. So just an important tidbit there. I was also listening to Alex Hormozi, watching a video yesterday about how rich people get rich. And at first you might think that they are just pouring their money. Imagine 7 cups in a row. You're pouring water in each of those cups. Each of those cups is a little bit of your time and energy. That's not how rich people get rich. They get rich by focusing everything on the one thing. So all those cups of water being poured into the one thing until it's overflowing. And then once it's overflowing, meaning your revenue is great enough to now diversify, you can take that overflowing cup and start pouring it into other areas of life, right? Your time and energy can go to other areas, but not until the one thing is like super overflowing. And that is also something that a lot of content creators get into. They're diversifying so much, they're exhausted because they're putting time and energy into so many different things. You really have to be focused on the one thing, all eggs in one basket, and like go for it. Believe in yourself enough to go for it. And if it's not working out, you may just need to pivot, and it may just be like a 2 degrees pivot, and that's it. So be open to what you might need to change, because this ties into our next segment, David, where we're talking about how we are pushing growth strategy together, growing a personal brand.
Yeah, absolutely. So ultimately, when couples are working together, you're creating a brand, whether it's personal or, public. So if it's a brick and mortar business, might be a public brand. If you're creating, a coaching business, then it really comes down to a personal brand. And the way we're doing it is organically, right? Like it's intentional, but we're not assuming what our audience wants. We're really getting a lot of feedback from our mentors, from the people that are in our groups, from the people that are consuming our content, by asking them, what do you want?
I feel like this is the endurance athlete conversation. It's not a race, it's a marathon. We're going very slow at it, and we're learning from you all and your feedback, your comments, your thoughts, ideas out there on all of our channels on how to direct our content. So you are part of us growing this business together. And we're super excited to do this, because part of growing this personal brand is having this podcast episode every week, that you have a space to come in and grow together as we're growing our story. So, I want to talk a little bit about this, David, for a second. We're doing the things that is everything that's in the dark so that we can be in the light, but we're doing the consistent social media posts, learning from you, creating the podcast, reaching out to our coaches, collaborating with other friends of ours, talking through the nitty-gritty details, kind of at a high level of the breakdown of what we can only imagine these podcast episodes even getting better and better, because we're going at it so organically. It's brand new to us. So it feels like a hot mess as we're just moving through this, but that's how we're doing it. I mean, and it's also a lot about scheduling these block times to get it done. I had a situation yesterday where I really wanted to go with David to go do something, and I really had to say, I've got to stick to this block time or it's not going to get done. So you have to kind of stick to your guns on where your time is going to be spent to set yourself up for success in the next couple of days, especially when it's kind of like on your calendar.
I want people to just sort of think about something. You only have so many hours in the day, right? One of the ways you can buy back your time and get more hours in the day is to hire a virtual team. And there are so many talented people in all walks of life, in all different parts of the world. We've had virtual team really virtually at some point in time on every continent and from, dozens of different countries. But when you look at someone like an Alex and a Leila or Tom and Lisa, just know that they have teams of 20 to 30 people that are doing all of these things for them in terms of social media, not just even on their business side, right? It's just their content production. And, if you go back in time and look where they started, they were ultimately doing a lot of that themselves in the beginning, right? And I think that's a really good way to go. Even though it takes more time, you know what it takes to get a job done. And if you don't know what it takes to get a job done, how can you hire somebody to do it for you and know, A, are they doing it in the correct amount of time? And B, are they following a process that matches the way you think? So Wendy's been a genius at hiring virtual team. We've had very few mishires. And do you want to talk about that just a little bit?
Yeah, I think, we've hired virtual team a little bit differently throughout the years. We used to, and this is still a great way to do it, is have folks send us a video. We post the ad out there, like out there on Fiverr, Upwork. Hey, send us your video. Here's the requirements. Tell us why you think you're a great fit. That's been a really great way. We've also just sat and interviewed and really been very specific, like you have to fit into these categories with this amount of time and be available for our meetings. One of the sticking spots I have found with hiring virtual team is them not wanting to show up on weekly calls. I think it's incredibly important to make sure you have a standing weekly call with your team. For sure, hands down, even your video editors who may not want to be on the call or even turn their video on, it's just absolutely critical for them to be on the call. So, but hiring virtual teams been great. Gosh, Dave, we've been doing it almost for 9-10 years as having virtual team, and it's worked fantastic for us. And we have people that's been with us. Gosh, we have a team that's been with us for probably 8 years still.
Yeah, for sure. You could probably create a whole course just on hiring virtual team, but let's move on.
Yeah. Let's move on. I know we talk about scheduling block time a lot. That is something that David and I are religious about. We sit down on a weekend, like a Saturday or Sunday, for an hour, and we just talk about what the next 2, 3, 4 weeks are looking like. And it's really good to get yourself in a habit like this to go beyond just the next week. And we're talking about like personal appointments that each other has, out of the office appointments, and then also where can we put in the time slots that we can plug in the things to do. And if you're thinking like, oh man, that takes so much energy to think about all the stuff I have to put in those time slots, create a list so ours is, we work a lot in Monday. Monday's like managing our life. So we create a list in Monday and say, here's the weekly things that we have to get into the next 3 weeks so that you don't have to think about it. So we know if there's like podcast preparation time, that's a block time. Then we have to shoot the podcast. Then there's the review of the podcast. And then there's more review. And then there's the scheduling. So all that has to be blocked out in your calendar. So if you're thinking you've got a lot to talk about, make sure you get it down on that Monday doc or Google Doc where both of you can see it and you can start blocking your time together on that calendar.
And you'll never be effective in delivering your product, whatever it is, if you don't do this. Because in between that, right, I've got to talk to clients, make sales calls. There's meetings, right? There's stuff that goes into all of this. So you need to be militant when it comes to sticking to your schedule and creating it, not just when you wake up in the morning, but we're like a month out, right? And that's also how we create our free time. So we're going to go on a vacation, right? You got to block it out because there's a lot of things that have to occur, in terms of timeline.
This is the stuff that I feel like nobody talks about, Dave. I feel like this is the stuff that you always wonder, like how the Alex and Leila Hormozis are actually doing it. Like, what does their time blocks actually look like? They don't share that. And this is where I want to be different. I want to share everything that we're doing with our family here, whatever channel or wherever you're listening to this, because this is how we're making the waves together and pivoting so quickly. We started this journey 60 some days ago, and here we are moving through an incredible space with lots of different coaches and mentors, and being very vulnerable as well as being uncomfortable, because we know we need pushed out of our comfort zones to be able to create something more successful for us.
Awesome. I'm going to jump ahead a little bit here, Wendy, just to expedite this so we don't run this into a 2-hour episode.
Yes,
which
let's
isn't
do
a
it.
bad
We just
thing.
put so much into this. So yeah, for
right,
sure.
But one of the main drivers for us to get better, to be more successful, to be better as a couple has been signing up for uncomfortable events and planning opportunities to go to events, work with coaches, work with people that are specialists in something that we need to get better at for our relationship and our business. Do you want to talk about like what we're doing in November?
We are just getting ready to go to Bo Eason's event. If you haven't heard about Eason, he has an incredible program called Personal Story Power. And it's us getting on stage, working with different types of coaches, like movement coaches, voice coaches, learning how to move on stage together with Bo, tell our story. That's a very uncomfortable place for David and I. We're doing that. We've been to uncomfortable events like Brendan Bouchard's events. Uncomfortable meaning you're putting yourself in front of 1,500 or 3,000 people in an audience, and you're turning around and meeting them and shaking their hands and telling them your story, or you're having breakout sessions, or you're having luncheons with, new people that you haven't met before, but you're kind of on the same train, right? You all want to go somewhere, and now you're meeting them for the first time. We've actually made incredible relationships out of these events as well.
Some of our top relationships that we're, day to day with have come out of these events.
Absolutely. I think it's good to always future plan and step into the unknown now to plan ahead. We are entertaining a new a coaching event for next year called Speak to Freedom, with previous coach that we've had named Anthony Trucks. He's incredible. And we're already having the conversations now to prepare us for 6 months from now. And I think that's so important because you're preparing your mind, your time, your budget. So if it's something that like, hey, I'm thinking about it, go ahead and dive into it. Like, get on those phone calls, get all the information you need to help you know if this is going to be a right fit so you can future plan that. I think it's so important, Dave, to do that, because otherwise we can like, hey, let's wait till next year. And then, that thing that we were talking about 6 months ago, let's jump in and do that, But now we're already organized for it. Like, we know everything about the event. We know how much it's going to cost. We know how much time it's going to take. So we're already like, okay, that's what it's going to take. Where is this where we want to go? Now we can have that conversation. And then when do we want to make the start date?
For sure. And the last thing I'd say is, in the events that you schedule, make at least one of them a year, if not more, an in-person event, right? And we've all learned that there's all kinds of virtual events out there, which is cool, but you're still remote. You're still behind the camera, behind the screen. Nobody knows if you're, eating a sandwich or ducking out early or not taking notes. And it just is, it's never going to be the same experience. I know you'll be able to learn things, but virtual will never be the same as in person. And so plan at least one in-person event. Even if you don't know what it is, start to put the money aside and the mindset aside, because when you do that, right, that intentionality, the thing that's going to work for you will just magically come. It's the way the universe seems to work, right? Once you set your intention, then the opportunities start to pop up.
Cool. Yeah. Let's move into our next segment. So true, Dave. Thank you for that. I want to cruise through something that is a big question with a lot of our listeners about how do we keep romance alive during the hustle of our work? How do you maintain a healthy personal relationship while you're juggling the professional responsibilities? It for sure is challenging. It's so hard to find the balance on a day-to-day with family life as well as your professional life.
So the first thing I'm going to say, and I know there's a lot of things here in keeping the romance alive, but one of the ways that we do it is put it on the calendar, right? And I know that sounds strange, and I know what you're thinking out there. What are you putting on the calendar? Whatever you want, whatever your intention is. But really, date nights and just time away from work is the first thing. Also set clear boundaries, right? Like designate work hours and personal time, separate those things. What else do you think?
For sure. I think getting your date nights is super prioritizing, setting up your boundaries, designating that work times, and that's all in your block time. You've dedicated your workspace so that you know where each other is going to do the work, but then also where the relaxation zones are, because I think there's a lot of crossover in the home environment for relaxation zones. And then respecting each other's space. David started off by talking about, when the doors closed at the beginning of this episode, that we both have a signal to not go in that door. I get that. So we both have kind of made that when I know the door is closed. Same thing for you if the door is closed, or, if you're in a certain position or have maybe a hand signal, that you're using, this is my time to work and please don't interrupt me with my kids or with phone calls, unless it's an emergency, obviously, but I need this focus block to do whatever that thing is.
Yeah, absolutely. And the reverse of that, make sure you schedule regular check-ins, right? And that is for us on a daily basis, check in on what's going on as well as schedule meetings together, right? But that check-in is more a personal check-in than a business check-in. While you're business partners, you're also, love partners. So you need to have that balance. Different than traditional work environments, there's some opportunity to be a little bit frisky during the workday.
I love this one. I think you need to schedule your unplug time. Get off the device, get off of social, get out somewhere. I love going for a walk, just a walk. Sometimes Dave and I go together, sometimes I go by myself, but I love setting up tech-free times to just connect with myself without the distractions of the kids, the family, the husband, the social community, all of that, just unplug time. So super important. It just creates healthy space for you and your mind to be around, to just be like, okay, this is my bubble of space to just unplug.
Yep. And then make sure you guys are, setting goals together, right? So you want to make sure that you're headed in some sort of parallel rails in terms of what you want out of life and what you want out of your free time, what you want out of your relationship. And so many times people are dissatisfied with their relationships because they've actually never communicated what it is they wanted in the first place. And one of the best ways to have an unhappy relationship is have expectations and don't communicate them, because you're guaranteed to not get what you wanted and then feel frustrated about it. And guess what? That's your fault. So set goals together and communicate them.
Yeah, that's really important. Those goals together can be created when you're doing your weekly little masterminds and you're scheduling, know your goals. So that is definitely something that you can, doesn't have to be just like, hey, we just got all the business done. You can also have those personal conversations. What Dave and I like to call is PSP, or personal share time, is scheduling in those kind of conversations like, hey, we're going to schedule Friday afternoon off as a decompression day where we're just sharing together. We're just being together. Maybe that's our date afternoon. We're just hanging out together, distraction-free zone, doing something else. Okay, I was just going to say the last one is really work on avoiding the work conversations around bedtime. I think it's time, like it's such a crossover when you're working together at home in whatever businesses you're talking about, clients or services or, your social media or communities. It's like, it's time to like cut the conversation at a certain time, make it a time like, hey, after dinner or after 5:30 or 6:30, it's like, it's done. Let's not talk about any of the work stuff. Let's move on to the next day. And David and I've we've worked really hard at that. And I think it's definitely gotten a lot better from originally where we were carrying that conversation all the way into when we go to bed.
Yeah, for sure. I might even extend that out to saying, like, avoid work talk at dinner too. Somewhere before dinner, I think it needs to cut off, especially if you've had a stressful day. You don't need that energy with the food that's going into your body. That's what creates disease and discomfort and digestive problems. So that's my opinion, right? Try and not dump work into food.
So the thing about this is David would love more of this. And the reason that your work conversation comes out at dinner is because you didn't get enough scheduled time in your week to actually have those conversations. And that is so common because you're both working so hard at so many things. If you're not scheduling in the catch-up convos, then that's where the dumping goes, is at dinner time. So really work to try to have those catch-up convos during the week, even if it's like 20 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, like, hey, we'll just make sure at 3:30 or 2:30, we always do like a 30-minute like touch base, like where are we at with things, so that it doesn't bleed into that, because we've both been guilty, David, of not having that time together in the week. And then it becomes a dumping ground when we get together because we're so excited to talk about XYZ, or we're so frustrated to talk about XYZ, and it comes out at dinner because it's the only time we see each other is back down at dinner, something we continue to work on.
That's interesting. I could open the door and I could see you right now, but I know what you're saying, right? Sometimes you're in it, and we've got to make it okay to also tell your partner, like, time out, and we'll discuss this after I've eaten my steak. You can see we disagree on some things constantly, and that's what makes life beautiful.
Okay, listen, Dave's a foodie, everyone. So, if you're a foodie too, like all on, I am like the super simple kid where I come in and I've just like plain PBJ is my jam. I'm like, I'm good, super simple. Dave's like really elaborate in what he loves. but it's all good.
If people were to show up at dinner time, they'd be like, how do you guys get along at all? Right?
Right. Oh my gosh. So when he talks about like, hey, I don't want any work conversation at dinner, it's because he wants to enjoy his foodie experience. For me, I'm like, oh heck, it's a peanut butter jelly. Cut that thing in half. Let's go.
I'm like, no peanut butter jelly. I made a fresh hollandaise sauce. It's going to go on the asparagus. So,
oh my gosh.
there we go.
Anyway, the most important thing to walk away with from this segment here is just talking about it's important to keep your romance alive during what you're doing in your hustle, no matter what it is. So make sure you pay attention to, setting these spaces to create this healthy partnership, to prevent the burnout, to create more connection together, reduce the conflict, enhance your focus as a couple and a partner, and then just continue to promote and grow in the work-life balance, because it'll continue to evolve in the evolution. You'll find more hacks that'll help each other. And when I say hack, you're going to continue working on it in your personal growth. You'll find coaches that are going to help you pivot in different areas that you might be sticking at. So just continue to prioritize the workflow. Even if it's not perfect today, it's fine. It's always going to be changing. And as long as you're making headway, your relationship's still alive and the work and business are still feeling in the right direction.
Awesome. Embers rising.
Yeah, and that's it. I mean, that wraps up another fiery episode of Embers Rising. A huge thank you to all of you listeners for joining us in today's episode. David, any parting words?
No, I just want to shout out a heartfelt thank you to all of our incredible community and the people that are in this journey with us. Your support fuels our passion, and we're so grateful that we're able to share these stories and insights with you.
So absolutely. And if today's episode did settle with you, resonate with you, please, we ask a small favor. Take a moment, like the episode, leave a comment, share it with your friends or loved one, and don't forget to hit the subscribe buttons. By doing so, you're not only supporting us, but you're also ensuring that you don't miss out on another future episode filled with inspiration and knowledge.
Right on. So let's keep this community growing and the embers rising.
All right, till next time, keep the flames of passion burning bright, and remember, together we rise.